Do you want to be ahead of the game for the latest in arts, music, cuisine, and entertainment across the Middle East's most dynamic capital cities? Al Monitor is proud to launch our City Pulse newsletters, focused exclusively on local news, starting in Riyadh, Dubai, Istanbul, and Doha. Each week, our on-the-ground writers in these cities cover the latest cultural happenings and trends, so you have everything you need to know for the best local experiences. To subscribe for free, go to almonitor.com, that's al-monitor.com, and sign up on our newsletter page.
Welcome back to the Al Monitor Brief. I'm Adam Lucente. Today we'll discuss rising tensions between Israel and Turkey over Syria, the latest regional reactions to President Donald Trump's tariffs, and the war in Gaza. Plus we'll hear from Beatrice Farhat in Beirut on threats to the ceasefire in Lebanon. Hope you enjoy. Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan told Reuters on Friday that Turkey doesn't want, quote, any confrontation with Israel in Syria. The comments follow a significant bout of tensions between the two. Israel's latest strikes on Syria on Wednesday, targeting military structures, included the T4 airbase east of Homs. Turkey is reportedly seeking to place troops there. On Thursday, Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar accused Turkey of seeking to turn Syria into a Turkish protectorate. Israel is concerned about Turkey's presence in Syria. Turkey, which backed some of the rebels who toppled President Bashar al-Assad in December, is close to the new government led by President Ahmed Shara. Turkey has had a presence in northern Syria for years, while Israel's recent actions have focused on the south, close to the border with the Golan Heights. And Israel-Turkey relations have soured considerably since the start of the war in Gaza, with Ankara vocally criticizing Israel's conduct in the conflict with Hamas. Regional states are scrambling to avoid the tariffs announced by Trump this week. Turkish Trade Minister Ömer Bolat said in a statement Friday they want to negotiate with the U.S. to lift the 10% tariff placed on their exports to the United States. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has spoken to Trump about the 17% tariff on Israeli goods, Reuters reported on Friday. On Thursday, an Iraqi official told state media that the 39% tariff on Iraqi exports will not apply since oil is exempt from the decision. The price of Brent crude oil, considered the global benchmark for oil prices, fell further on Friday, hitting around $66 a barrel as of 3 p.m. Eastern. The price was around $74 a barrel on Wednesday before Trump announced sweeping tariffs on most of the world, including the Middle East. A decision by Saudi Arabia and 7 other OPEC Plus members to boost oil production on Thursday further contributed to the price decline. Israel's operations in Gaza intensified further on Friday as the military announced new ground operations in the north of the enclave. According to the UN, more than 280,000 Palestinians in Gaza have been displaced since the collapse of the ceasefire in mid-March. Meanwhile, protests against Hamas and the war continued earlier this week in northern Gaza's Beit Lahia. Yemen's Houthi forces claimed another attack on the U.S. Navy on Friday. Spokesman Yahya Sarria said in a post on X they fired missiles and drones at U.S. ships in the area. That follows suspected U.S. strikes hitting Yemen on Wednesday. The Trump administration has renewed military action against the Iran-backed group in an effort to deter them from attacking ships in the Red Sea. The Houthis resumed the attacks on ships in January amid the collapse of the Gaza ceasefire. And in Lebanon, the health ministry said 3 people were killed in an Israeli strike on an apartment building in the southern city of Sidon Friday. The Israeli military said they killed a Hamas commander in the strike, saying he was responsible for a deadly rocket attack on northern Israel last year. The incident constituted the latest test of the ceasefire reached between Israel and Hezbollah late last year. And it's worth noting that though based in Gaza, Hamas likewise has a presence in Lebanon. Also Friday, the Lebanese army said they arrested 2 citizens and a Syrian national while seizing a truck full of weapons and drugs in eastern Lebanon's Baalbek, a Hezbollah stronghold. President Joseph Aoun, who took office in January, has vowed that all weapons in Lebanon should be under the control of the state and not other armed groups, but disarming Hezbollah will likely prove challenging. U.S. Special Envoy Morgan Ortagus arrived in Beirut on Friday and is expected to meet Lebanese officials to discuss the ceasefire. Don't go anywhere. My interview with Al Monitor's Beirut correspondent Beatrice Farhat about those developments in Lebanon is coming up after this short break.
Today's transformation of the Middle East is at the center of global geopolitics. Whether you're an analyst, diplomat, executive, or academic, you need the best reporting and analysis to understand what's really happening on the ground and what it means for the world. Al Monitor is the award-winning independent leader in Middle East news. From Riyadh to Beirut, Abu Dhabi to Doha, and Baghdad to Tehran, our team of over 100 expert journalists report daily on the top stories driving the regional trends. Download our mobile app and subscribe to Al Monitor to follow what leaders and decision makers are reading every day. Go to almonitor.com, that's al-monitor.com, and use promo code POD25, POD25 for a discount.
Beatrice, welcome back to the Al Monitor Brief.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us from Beirut. First, let's talk about the general situation in Lebanon. What is the status of the ceasefire right now?
Yeah, so since the ceasefire began in November, there has been repeated Israeli violations of the ceasefire. The Israeli military has been striking several areas in the south and sometimes in the Bekaa. Just last night or overnight, the Israeli military said it killed a Hamas commander in Saida or Sidon and two of his children in a strike on a residential building in the city in the south. And earlier this week, on Tuesday specifically, an Israeli strike hit Beirut's southern suburbs, or Dahye, which is a known Hezbollah stronghold. 4 people were killed, and the Israeli military said it killed a Hezbollah official identified as Hassan Abder, and the military said he was responsible for aiding or helping Hamas plan attacks against Israeli civilians. This was the second strike in Dahya since the ceasefire was reached last November. Another one hit last Friday. The Israeli military says its airstrikes were in response to rocket attacks that were launched from southern Lebanon toward Israel. Hezbollah has denied its involvement in these attacks. There were 2 reported attacks in the past week or weeks. Yeah, since March. Meanwhile, Hezbollah has not claimed an attack against Israel since November, and it has repeatedly said it remains committed to the ceasefire. However, Israel says that Hezbollah is also violating the ceasefire in the sense that it has not fully withdrawn its forces and weapons from the south to the north of the Litani River, that is about 30 kilometers from the border with Lebanon, and which is stipulated in the ceasefire. So this is basically what's been happening in the country regarding the ceasefire and the accusations of violations.
Right. And what can we expect from Ortagus' meetings in Beirut? And what are people saying in Lebanon about the visit?
I mean, the media is saying that Ortagus is going to be firm. She's going to deliver a firm message from Washington during her meetings she's going to be meeting with President Joseph Aoun, with Prime Minister Nawaf Salam, and with Parliament Speaker Nabih Berri tomorrow. So they're expecting a firm message from Washington demanding that they set a clear timetable for the disarmament of Hezbollah. And she's also going to tackle the issue of land border demarcation talks between Israel and Lebanon. I mean, these are all reports. We're not sure yet what is on the agenda. There has been no official confirmation yet on the agenda or the details of the meeting, but this is basically the gist of it. So yeah, basically the land border demarcation, but the Lebanese officials are expected also to tell her that there will be no talks on the border demarcation as long as Israel still occupies the 5 border villages that it has invaded during its recent war. So we're gonna wait and see what happens tomorrow during the meetings.
And finally, you mentioned this earlier. How are the plans going to have Hezbollah pull back above the Litani River, and also efforts to disarm the group? What progress, if any, is being made on those points?
The Lebanese army is conducting several missions or operations to clear the area, dismantle Hezbollah infrastructures, confiscate weapons in the area. So, and President Joseph Aoun, he also said in an interview last week, he said that the Lebanese army is doing its job under the ceasefire to clear the area from Hezbollah fighters and weapons. Now, the US, for its part, believes that the Lebanese government, which it holds responsible for disarming Hezbollah, is dragging its feet when it comes to this. This is why they're expecting Ortagus to firmly ask the officials to set a clear timetable and give them a specific date for when the weapons will be removed.
Okay, Beatrice, thanks so much for your time, and we look forward to more of your reporting from Beirut.
No problem, anytime.
Thanks for listening to the Al Monitor Brief. Be sure to follow Al Monitor for more on the stories impacting the Middle East. Until next time, I'm Adam Lucente.